Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Sean. Marriage was supposed to be about growing together, not growing apart. But somewhere between climbing corporate ladders and chasing professional dreams, Amanda and I had become strangers who share the same address. When she asked me on our 5th anniversary if we could open our marriage, I knew our relationship had already ended. She just hadn't bothered to tell me until she needed my permission to make it official. Amanda and I had gotten married 7 years ago, both of us fresh out of graduate school and hungry to make our mark on the world. She had just earned her MBA and landed a position as a marketing analyst at a prestigious consulting firm downtown. I had completed my master's in civil engineering and accepted an offer with the city's transportation department, working on infrastructure projects that would shape the metropolitan area for decades to come. Our early marriage had been built on shared ambition and mutual support for each other's professional goals. We understood that building successful careers would require sacrifices and long hours, but we believed that investing in our professional development during our 20s would create the foundation for a comfortable, secure future together. Amanda was brilliant at her job, and I found my work equally rewarding. During the first few years of our marriage, we had maintained a good balance between our professional ambitions and our relationship. We would share stories about our work days over dinner, celebrate each other's promotions and achievements, and make time for weekend adventures and social activities that kept us connected as a couple. Amanda had been attentive and affectionate during those early years, making efforts to create a warm home environment despite our busy schedules. She would plan special dinners when I had particularly stressful weeks, and always seemed genuinely interested in the details of my projects and the challenges I was facing at work. I reciprocated by supporting her career advancement, attending company events as her spouse, helping her prepare for important client meetings, and taking care of household responsibilities when she was traveling for business or working late on critical projects. We functioned as a team, each contributing to our shared success and supporting the other's individual goals. But as both of our careers progressed and our professional responsibilities expanded, maintaining that balance became increasingly difficult. Amanda's success at the consulting firm led to promotions and higher-profile client assignments that required more travel and longer hours. She was frequently out of town for week-long engagements, working with clients in other cities to implement the strategies she had developed. My own career advancement brought similar challenges. I was promoted to senior project manager and eventually to department supervisor, roles that came with increased responsibility for multiple simultaneous projects and larger teams of engineers and contractors. The complexity of coordinating major infrastructure developments meant that my days often extended well into the evening, and weekend site visits became routine rather than exceptional. The natural result of our professional success was that we began spending less time together and having fewer opportunities for the kinds of personal connection that had sustained our relationship during the early years of our marriage. Our schedules rarely aligned for shared meals. Our weekend time was often consumed by work obligations, and our conversations became increasingly focused on practical matters rather than personal intimacy. Amanda gradually stopped doing many of the thoughtful things that had characterized her approach to our relationship during our dating years and early marriage. She no longer waited up for me when I was working late, claiming that she needed to maintain a consistent sleep schedule for optimal work performance. The special dinners and surprise gestures that had once been regular features of our relationship became increasingly rare, replaced by takeout meals and perfunctory conversations about schedules and logistics. Most significantly, she seemed to lose interest in maintaining the physical and emotional intimacy that had always been an important part of our connection. When I would try to be romantic or initiate physical closeness, she would often respond with minimal enthusiasm or claim to be too tired from her demanding work schedule to engage fully in intimate moments. These changes developed gradually over the course of several years, making them easy to rationalize as temporary adjustments to increased professional demands rather than fundamental shifts in her feelings about our relationship. I told myself that once we both reached more senior positions with greater control over our schedules, we would be able to refocus on our marriage and rebuild the connection that work stress had temporarily diminished. But as our 5th anniversary approached, I began to realize that the distance between us had become more than just a temporary side effect of career building. Amanda seemed genuinely uninterested in spending time with me, even when work wasn't pressing, preferring to use her free time for individual activities or social events that didn't include me. Her lack of enthusiasm for physical intimacy had become so pronounced that months could pass without a meaningful physical connection between us. When I would try to discuss this issue, she would attribute her decreased interest to stress, fatigue, or hormonal fluctuations, always with the implication that the problem was temporary and would resolve itself without requiring any significant changes to our relationship dynamic. Our 5th anniversary dinner became the moment when these underlying issues finally came to the surface in a conversation that would change everything between us. I had made reservations at one of our favorite restaurants, hoping that the romantic setting might help us reconnect and remember why we had fallen in love in the first place. Over appetizers and wine, I broached the subject that had been on my mind for months. I suggested that maybe it was time for us to shift our priorities slightly, to cut down on the relentless career chase that had consumed so much of our energy and attention. I proposed that we start thinking seriously about beginning a family, creating the next chapter of our life together that would give us shared goals beyond professional advancement. Amanda paused for several long seconds before responding, her expression growing serious in a way that immediately told me this conversation wasn't going to go the way I had hoped. Instead of the enthusiasm or at least openness I had expected, she looked uncomfortable and conflicted, as if I had raised a topic she had been dreading. What she said next left me completely speechless and fundamentally changed my understanding of our marriage. She told me that she wasn't sure she loved me the way I thought she did, that the feelings she had for me weren't the kind of deep, passionate love that should form the foundation of a family. But her confession didn't end there. After dropping that bombshell, she asked if we could consider opening our marriage, allowing each other to pursue romantic and physical relationships with other people while maintaining our legal and financial partnership. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what my wife of 5 years had just told me. The woman I had built my adult life around, the person I had assumed shared my vision of our future together, was essentially telling me that our marriage had become a convenient arrangement rather than a loving relationship. I didn't answer her question about opening the marriage. I couldn't formulate words that adequately expressed my shock, hurt, and disbelief at what she was proposing. Instead, I mechanically continued eating my dinner, while my mind reeled from the implications of what she had revealed about her true feelings. The drive home from the restaurant was conducted in complete silence, both of us apparently lost in our own thoughts about the conversation we had just had and what it meant for our relationship. The comfortable familiarity that had once characterized our interactions had been replaced by an awkward tension that made even simple exchanges feel forced and artificial. From that anniversary dinner forward, our house felt cold in ways that had nothing to do with the temperature. The emotional distance that had been developing gradually over the years had suddenly become an unbridgeable chasm that affected every aspect of our daily life together. Amanda seemed to interpret my silence as consideration of her proposal rather than the shocked rejection it actually represented. She began acting as if we had agreed to explore the idea of opening our marriage, occasionally mentioning how refreshing it might be to have the freedom to pursue other connections while maintaining the stability of our partnership. But I wasn't considering her proposal at all. Instead, I was grappling with the devastating realization that the marriage I thought we were building together had been, from her perspective, nothing more than a practical arrangement that provided financial security and social respectability, while she waited for something better to come along. After several days of thinking through the implications of Amanda's anniversary revelation, I made a decision that would surprise her but felt inevitable to me. I contacted a divorce attorney to begin the process of legally ending our marriage. I chose a family law attorney who specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for handling complex cases with discretion and efficiency. During our initial consultation, I explained the situation and my desire to end the marriage as quickly and amicably as possible, given that we had no children and both had independent careers and assets. The attorney helped me understand the legal requirements for divorce in our state and the timeline we could expect for completing the process. Since both Amanda and I were working professionals with separate incomes and assets, he anticipated that the property division and financial arrangements would be relatively straightforward compared to cases involving stay-at-home spouses or significant disparities in earning power. I spent several weeks working with the attorney to prepare the necessary documentation and ensure that all of our shared assets and obligations were properly identified and valued. We owned our home jointly, had separate retirement accounts, shared a few investment accounts, and had accumulated the usual collection of personal property that couples acquire over years of marriage. The most complex aspect of our financial situation was the house, which we had purchased 3 years earlier with both of our names on the mortgage and deed. We would need to decide whether one of us wanted to buy out the other's interest or whether we should sell the property and divide the proceeds. When Amanda finally received the divorce papers, served to her at work by a professional process server, her reaction was immediate anger and indignation. She called me that evening, furious that I had initiated legal proceedings without discussing it with her first or giving her an opportunity to explain her anniversary proposal more fully. During that heated phone conversation, Amanda revealed information that made her request for an open marriage even more hurtful and calculated than I had initially realized. She admitted that she had only asked for an open marriage because her crush from college, someone whom I had heard her mention occasionally over the years, had recently gotten divorced and had asked her out on a weekend getaway. This revelation transformed my understanding of her anniversary proposal from a general desire for freedom to explore other relationships into a specific request for permission to have an affair with a particular man she had been interested in for years. She hadn't been asking for mutual freedom to pursue other connections. She had been asking for my blessing to cheat with someone she had already been in contact with and had apparently been wanting to be with for our entire marriage. Amanda tried to justify her request by claiming that the current state of our marriage was almost an open marriage anyway, given how little time we spent together and how minimal our physical intimacy had become. She argued that formalizing what was already happening would be more honest than continuing to pretend we had a traditional marriage. But her justification only reinforced my decision to proceed with the divorce. The fact that she could characterize our marriage as essentially over while still expecting me to remain legally bound to her revealed a level of selfishness and disrespect that I found impossible to accept. She also tried to minimize the significance of her feelings for this new man, claiming that her attraction to him was just physical, and that she had no intention of leaving me for him or developing a serious relationship. According to her, she just wanted the freedom to explore this connection without the guilt and secrecy that would be required if she pursued it while we were still in a traditional marriage. But I wasn't interested in her explanations or justifications. The woman who had promised to love, honor, and cherish me had just admitted that she had been fantasizing about being with another man for our entire marriage, and had only been waiting for the right opportunity to act on those fantasies. I told Amanda that I was proceeding with the divorce, and that her revelations about her crush had only confirmed that ending our marriage was the right decision. I explained that I wanted a real partnership with someone who was genuinely committed to building a life together, not a convenient arrangement with someone who was just waiting for something better to come along. The divorce process moved forward over the following months with the efficiency that my attorney had predicted. Since Amanda was working and earning a good income from her consulting career, there were no issues with spousal support or significant disparities in financial resources that might complicate the proceedings. We were able to reach an agreement on most of the practical matters relatively quickly. Amanda decided she wanted to keep the house and buy out my share of the equity, which worked well for me since I preferred to make a clean break and start fresh somewhere else rather than continue living in the place where our marriage had deteriorated. Our retirement accounts and investment portfolios were divided according to the standard formulas for marital property, with each of us keeping the accounts that were in our individual names and splitting the jointly held assets. The personal property division was handled through a combination of negotiation and practical considerations, with each of us taking the items we had brought into the marriage or that had particular significance to us individually. Throughout the legal process, Amanda continued to express ambivalence about the divorce, claiming that she didn't really want to end our marriage, and that we could work through our problems if I was willing to be more flexible about the terms of our relationship. She seemed genuinely surprised that I wasn't willing to consider her proposal for an open marriage, apparently believing that most modern couples were more sophisticated about these arrangements, and that my insistence on traditional monogamy was outdated and unrealistic. But even after the divorce was finalized and we were no longer legally married, Amanda persisted in suggesting that we could still maintain some kind of relationship that would give her the benefits of marriage, without the exclusive commitment that I required. These suggestions revealed that Amanda still didn't understand why I had chosen to end our marriage. She seemed to think that my objection was to the specific details of her proposal rather than to the fundamental lack of love and commitment that her proposal had revealed. I tried to explain that I wanted more than just being married on paper, that a real marriage required genuine love, exclusive commitment, and a shared vision for the future that we clearly didn't have. But she seemed incapable of understanding that her willingness to treat our marriage as a convenient arrangement was exactly the problem that made reconciliation impossible. The finalization of our divorce was both sad and liberating. Sad because it represented the official end of a relationship that had once held so much promise, and that I had invested so much of my emotional energy in building. But liberating because it freed me from the pretense of maintaining a marriage with someone who had never been as committed to our partnership as I had been. Looking back on our marriage, I can see that the warning signs of Amanda's lack of genuine commitment had been there for years, but I had interpreted them as temporary challenges rather than fundamental incompatibilities. Her gradual withdrawal from the thoughtful gestures and intimate connection that had characterized our early relationship hadn't been caused by work stress. It had been caused by her decreasing investment in our partnership as a romantic relationship. The experience taught me important lessons about the difference between someone who is committed to building a life with you and someone who is just comfortable with the arrangement you provide. Amanda had been comfortable with our marriage as long as it served her practical and social needs, but she had never been deeply committed to me as her chosen life partner. Her request for an open marriage had been the culmination of years of treating our relationship as a convenient arrangement rather than a sacred commitment. The fact that she had a specific person in mind when she made that request revealed that she had been emotionally investing in other relationships while going through the motions of our marriage. The divorce process also showed me how important it is to have clear expectations and boundaries in relationships. Amanda seemed genuinely confused by my unwillingness to accept her redefinition of marriage, apparently believing that I should be grateful for her honesty about her feelings rather than hurt by her lack of genuine commitment. But honesty without love and commitment isn't enough to sustain a marriage. Being told that your spouse doesn't love you the way you think they do, and that they want permission to pursue other relationships, isn't the kind of honesty that strengthens a relationship. It's the kind of honesty that reveals the relationship was never as strong as you believed it to be. Today, I'm grateful that Amanda was honest about her feelings on our 5th anniversary, even though her honesty destroyed my understanding of our marriage. Living unknowingly in a one-sided relationship would have been far worse than dealing with the immediate pain of divorce and starting over. The woman who asked for an open marriage so she could pursue her college crush had done me a favor by revealing her true priorities before I wasted more years of my life building a future with someone who was never fully committed to building that future with me. Her proposal had been presented as a solution to our marital problems, but it was actually the symptom of a much deeper problem, the fact that she had never loved me the way I loved her, and had been waiting for the right opportunity to pursue someone she found more appealing. The cold house we lived in after that anniversary dinner had been cold long before that conversation took place. I had just been too invested in our partnership to recognize that Amanda had been emotionally checking out of our marriage for years, going through the motions while her heart was somewhere else entirely. When she said it would just be a one-night affair with her dream man, she was really asking for permission to officially end what had already ended in her heart long ago. What I did next, filing for divorce and ending our marriage completely, was simply acknowledging the reality that she had been too comfortable to face on her own.